Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Growing Kentucky's Leaders. I'm one of your hosts, Sheldon McKinney.
And I'm your other host, Ruth Ann Fink. And today we have with us Daniel Bustle. Daniel is a lot of things. He's a fellow podcaster. He is an agriculture teacher at Locust Trace Agri-Science Center. He's taught for 15 years, going into year 16. He helps out on their family farm, Bywater Farms and Greenhouse in Georgetown, Kentucky. If you're looking for something to do in the fall, it's a great place to spend some time. And he's one of the new board members of the Kentucky FFA Foundation. So we are excited to have you with us today, Daniel.
All right, glad to be here.
Yeah, so I think starting off, just tell us a little bit more about yourself and then the program that you currently teach at.
Well, I grew up in Rockcastle County, so a former Rockcastle FFA member, and so I was on a family farm there. We raised some cattle and tobacco and that kind of thing, and I never thought I would do anything other than live in Rockcastle County and farm and have that kind of life. But wound up teaching ag and went to UK. Majored in ag ed, and started out teaching in Owen County and taught there for 4 years, and now currently teaching at Locust Trace Ag Science Center here in Lexington, Kentucky. I guess I would say it's probably us and Seneca, probably the two most urban programs in the state. And so it's set up in a much different fashion, as a lot of people know, in terms of in the ag teaching world. We have 10 ag teachers here, and so that was a big change for me, going from a single ag teacher at Owen County, jumping into, at that time, I think we had 5 ag teachers at Locust Trace, and now up to 10, plus several middle school programs. And so I've been able to experience a lot of great things and a lot of great growth here at Locust Trace, and I've had a hand, just a helping hand, in seeing that program grow. When I first got here, I think we were at somewhere around 130 students, and now we're up just around 400. So we've seen a lot of growth here at Locust Trace over the years, and I've been fortunate and blessed to be a small part of that deal.
Yeah, and for our listeners that may not know, Locust Trace is an affiliate program, which means all of their students that attend Locust Trace are FFA members, just by default. And so that's a great thing that they have going on there. And because there's so many FFA members, the Kentucky FFA Foundation has given lots of grants to those students that go to Locust Trace. And we just want to let you share, like, what's some of the impact that you've seen from foundation dollars helping your students?
Yeah, the foundation has played a vital role for us. I mean, we've been able to get one of the Ag Achiever grants that helped us get our farmers market started here at Locust Trace. I've had several students get SAE grants funded through the foundation. And actually, this morning, I've got students out here working right now that are working for the farmers market, and some of those students that haven't gotten some of those grants are here at school right now, playing a role in the ag industry and trying to learn that industry. And so it's really helped my students get started with, an ag project that most people would think, is that really going on in Lexington, Kentucky? Because we think of horses and Kentucky basketball here in Lexington. So it's been a great benefit to see my students have a helping hand in starting their projects and getting those projects from just a very small stage to all the way up to the national level, and seeing those students succeed with proficiencies and that kind of thing. I've got students that are delivering flowers this afternoon for their part of their project, and they were a recipient of an SAE grant. And so seeing that growth has been really fantastic. And I know that without the help of the foundation, a lot of those students wouldn't be able to have that experience. And so it's been a great thing to see how the foundation can play a very large role in such an urban program and still have that ag focus and have a hand in that. So I've been very fortunate to have students receive many of those grants.
Yeah, plug your farmers market hours really quick. So in case our listeners are in town, they want to stop by. What are the hours?
We normally open up on Thursdays, or typically every other Thursday. So hopefully we can have one next week. Stop by and see us. We're normally open from 4 until 7 on those Thursdays when we open up.
Tell us a little bit about some of your floriculture students and the recent thing they got to do with the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, floral design, if you'd asked me when I first started teaching, if you're going to teach floral design, I would have been like, I have no idea what you're saying. But floral design has been something that I've really actually enjoyed over the last several years. and it's opened up a lot of opportunities for my students. And this current year, I'm going to have 4 floriculture classes here at Locust Trace. And so last year, I got plugged in with a person that was in charge of event planning for the Kentucky Derby. And so they actually just took over all of the event planning for Churchill Downs. And she was a former FFA member from Clark County. And so she got in touch with Allie Thompson, which also teaches here at Locust Trace, because she had Miss Thompson when she was there. So she made a call and said, "Hey, would you all be interested in doing some flower arrangements for the Derby Taste of Derby event?" And so she put her in touch with me, and we started working on this. Well, originally it was they wanted us to do all the flowers for the Taste of Derby event, which is a big fundraising event that the funds actually go to hungry children in Kentucky. And so it was a good pairing for us to work with them, to have our students be there and have a helping hand in that project. But we actually created about 630 floral arrangements for that event. It took us basically 2 days to build them all. We built them all on site at the convention center. And I had 10 students down there working on designs for several hours over those 2 days. A very long, tiring event, but very rewarding. And I got to see students kind of in their element and in their zone, and doing something that was very fun, and still had a lot of learning involved in that. And so it was a chance to get out of the classroom and take what we're teaching in the classroom and put it to use. And so that was a very fun event. A very tiring event, and I didn't know that I would make it through it. And if you just said I'm making arrangements for the Kentucky Derby, if you told me I was going to be doing that at some point in my lifetime, I wouldn't have believed it.
Oh, that's incredible. And it's all eyes on Kentucky during that week. And FFA members got to have a real hands-on career building experience. If you're in the floral industry or event planning, saying that you put together 630 arrangements for a Kentucky Derby event as a high school student, that is real world experience. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it was pretty high pressure and kind of high stakes. And I kind of warned them ahead of time. I said, you maybe have never seen Mr. Bustle in this kind of element before. So you see me in the classroom, you see me at competitions, but if things start going south, you might see a different Mr. Bustle, because it then becomes like, we got to get this done kind of thing. And we were very fortunate that nothing crazy happened, and all the arrangements looked well. We didn't have any kind of issues, but it was a very, very good event.
Right. So how do you go from a cattle farm in Rockcastle County, and you join FFA, and then you decide ag ed is the path for you? How did FFA or your ag teacher shape or inspire your experience to decide this was what you wanted to do?
Well, I had Mr. Roy Reynolds and Mr. Jeff Hayes, both there at Rockcastle, and Mr. Hayes just basically said, "Hey, do you have any plans?" And it was just a simple ask of, "What are you going to do? You're getting ready to go into your senior year, and you need to have a plan. What's that plan look like for you?" And I didn't really know, and he said, "Well, I can get you to UK, and I'll set up he worked at the UK Dairy when he was in school, and he said I can set it up to where you can go out and tour the UK Dairy, and if you want to go to UK, you can pay for your housing through the dairy." And because if I'd had to pay for housing at that point in my life, I'm not sure I could have done that without taking out a lot of student loans. But Mr. Hayes actually put myself and Matt Whitaker, who is now teaching at Rockcastle County High School, he put us in the truck, and on spring break drove us up to UK. And we both actually got jobs. I got a job at the UK Dairy, and he got a job at the main farm there off of Newtown Pike. And we both wound up working there for a little while. And that got my foot into the door to go into ag ed. And I just enjoyed what I was doing in high school. And I thought, well, I can still be involved in the ag industry. I can still farm if I wanted to. I can do those kind of things, and maybe have a chance to give great opportunities to my students, just like it was given to me. So That's basically what pushed me into teaching ag. But then as you start teaching and having those experiences, providing those opportunities like going to the Kentucky Derby and that kind of thing, help keep you teaching, seeing those things in your students.
Yeah, and you've done that for 15 years. And what our listeners may not know is Daniel and I somewhat got to work together for a little bit. I got to do my student teaching at Locust Trace and then was a middle school teacher for a short stint in Fayette County. So I got to witness that firsthand and really are a great ag teacher. And you're more than just a great ag teacher. I want to mention, we mentioned it in your introduction to this episode, but you also play a really big role on your wife's family's farm, which is Bywater Farm and Greenhouse. And if anyone knows about that business, it is booming. It's big. You all do a lot of things over in Georgetown. If you walk down the main street in Georgetown, it's beautiful. Those are Bywater flowers. And so I wanted you to be able to talk a little bit about how that experience and working on the farm, Bywater Farm and Greenhouse, has really helped you become a teacher of teachers. You are the go-to person for a lot of ag teachers that are like, how do I run this greenhouse at our school? And so I just wanted you to share about how that family business has really helped you become a teacher of teachers.
Well, it's given me a lot of experience. And without that experience, I'm not sure that I could give much good advice. And sometimes my advice might be mediocre to begin with on some of the greenhouse stuff. But it's given me a chance to see the greenhouse industry and the plant industry and even the business side of agriculture that I was never exposed to growing up. And it's a very real life situation. And working the family farm has really helped me gain that knowledge. I knew very little about greenhouse when I first started. Basically nothing. My wife has a degree in horticulture, and so that helped if I had questions, and I can always go to them and get advice. And they've been great supporters, not just of me, but other programs. They supply plants to a lot of schools here in Kentucky, and more than just trying to say, oh, I'm going to make some money selling plants, but they have a passion for the greenhouse industry, and they want to see that industry continue to grow. And so they're very willing to help teachers within the ag ed learn more about the industry. And we've hosted a couple of PDs out there, and some schools have come out and toured and that kind of thing. I was actually just at a PD yesterday down at Berea with Kevin Anderson doing environmental. I said, I need to do another one of these for greenhouse. Because it's a big task running a greenhouse, especially if you've never done it. And a lot of our teachers coming out now don't have that experience. A lot of them have very, very little agriculture experience. And so trying to provide opportunities for them to see and get experience in those fields, I think is really, really important. And so making those connections within the community, whether it's Bywater Farm or if it's somewhere else out in Western Kentucky or wherever that might be, making those connections with those industry partners can prove very valuable, not just for our students. And it's not always about sponsoring money, but it can be about sponsoring learning for the teacher and for the students, because they can provide a lot of opportunities to have SAE projects and those kinds of things. And I will say, just real quick, it's a family farm, and my father-in-law, all of his children, my wife and their siblings, all of them have their American degree. So they had 4 kids. And so they are believers in what we do.
Yeah.
That's important.
That's so special. And I was a teacher many years ago. I taught in Montgomery County, and I was in charge of the greenhouses. I had one greenhouse class in college. But then you go and they're like, well, this is all yours. You have to figure out how everything works and runs and decide what you want to plant. It's a huge, huge learning curve for teachers and a huge responsibility that has a big financial stake for your chapter too. And so we continually need people like you who just support and say, call me if you need anything. Come and see what I'm doing. Because sometimes teaching, you're just staying a couple days ahead of where your students are as you're learning, and you've made that possible. It's awesome.
And that's what makes agriculture education so different and special, because there's not many subject areas where you would call another school district's teacher and say, I need help with this, and they want to help you. I think that's what makes this profession really special, is that everyone's a team. We're all helping each other out. We all want to see each other's programs succeed. And that's just, it's heartwarming. So people who want to go into ag ed know that you've got help and you've got a team on your side to help you.
Yeah, and we don't have all the answers, and I still call people about things. I still, if I don't know an answer to a plant question, I'm making a phone call myself. So never be hesitant to ask. And I was talking with a teacher yesterday that's been teaching for a long time, and he was asking me. He said, "I need to pick your brain about a couple of greenhouse questions." And I'm like, "You've been doing this for 27 years. You know as much about it as I do, but you still want to run these ideas by people, and whether it's something in the shop." If I have a shop question, I know there's people I'm going to make a phone call to, which, so finding those people, I think, is really important for these young teachers to make those connections. And I hope we can continue to build that within our ag ed community.
That's a perfect segue for our next question here, because you are the past president of the Kentucky Association of Agriculture Educators. We'll refer to that as KAAE from this point forward, but KAAE really exists to advance the profession of ag education, to create a network of teachers. And you have been really involved since you were a young teacher. You have been engaged with your professional organization. Why do you choose to do that, and why is it important for young teachers to plug in to KAAE?
Well, I've always felt it's important to be involved in the professional organization. When I come along as a student, I was part of the organization of FFA, and when I got into teaching, it was kind of one of those things like, well, I'm asking my students to get involved. I also need to be involved in doing those kind of things. And I had no idea what I was doing all those years ago, getting into KAAE, and Blaine Baird, who taught at Spencer County for many years, basically just pushed me in and said, "Hey, we want you to fill this role in the Northern Kentucky region at that time." And I was involved in the contest committee, and so I found it a way that it helped me and it helped my students, and not just my students, but students across the state, where we're trying to make improvements on contests, and we're trying to make improvements on professional development. And so I found it very, very important to me to help myself, but also to help serve others and to make things better for all the teachers across the state. And sometimes when you see things happening at a contest, or you see things happening within the profession, you think there's ways that we could maybe do this better. And we've been able to, I think, make a lot of changes for the good in Kentucky FFA through KAAE, and having that network of people is so important. When I first started teaching, I'm not sure I could have named 5 or 10 teachers that taught in the western half of the state, and KAAE has plugged me into a lot of those teachers, and I feel pretty confident that I could be anywhere in the state of Kentucky and I could find an ag teacher, and I probably know their name by doing some of this work with KAAE. And so I've just found it very rewarding to serve other ag teachers, and it truly is. If you get on the board serving for KAAE, there's no money involved in terms of payment. You don't get a stipend to do it, but you do get to work with other great ag teachers and make a difference in our profession. And so that has been probably my favorite part, has been able to be involved and try to make great decisions based on the fact that we want to help students and we want to help teachers.
Yeah, and we genuinely look forward to having your voice as an established teacher, as an involved teacher with that professional organization on our board. It's important to have all those voices at the table representing ag teachers across the state. Daniel, I did want to ask you, we have a lot of students that listen to this podcast, and you kind of mentioned earlier when you were in high school and your ag teachers played a big role in helping you decide future career paths. For our students that are listening, what advice do you wish you had been told, or that maybe you were told, that really helped you in figuring out what that career path was going to be for you? What would you tell students who are listening to this wondering the same thing?
I would say that you need to find something that you're passionate about. If that's plants, then follow that. If it's ag mechanics, follow that. But find something that you really enjoy. And if you can do that, finding a job won't be a problem. You can find jobs in pretty much any area, whether that's nursing or whatever you want it to be. But if you find something that you just enjoy, you can make a career out of that. You may not know how at this moment, but you can get connected to people that can help you find that. And it's I've had students over the years that they want to do lots of different careers, but what helps them the most, I think, is making the connections and finding what they love, but making the connections that can help them get to where they want to go. And I think FFA does a really good job with that. And I think back to some of my students. I mean, Caroline Groth, that's was just the Kentucky president just last year, has made lots of connections, and she's been able to see and talk to a lot of these people that are going to make a difference in what her career choice is going to be. And it might change 5 times between your high school days and by the time you get out in the world and figuring out what you want to do. But you've got to find something that you love.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah.
So a thing that you may really love, I don't know, but one thing about being a great ag teacher is you like to sit around and talk to other ag teachers a whole lot of the time. And it's kind of like the front porch of FFA camp is just teachers connecting. You do that in a kind of a different way, and you have your own podcast. Maybe you are our first podcaster on our podcast, but tell us about why you and your teaching friends decided to start the Outels podcast and what it is and how people can listen.
Well, I think we kind of we got bored, I guess, during the COVID times. Probably, I think, when I think about it, but we just like to tell stories, and what it boils down to, and we start thinking about all these things that's happened over the years and things that happen in education. Sometimes they're just funny, and Lewis Mink does a good job explaining those in a very funny way, and Matt has kept us organized through all that. And we haven't recorded one in a while, and that's probably been the hardest part is keeping it going and finding the time to always do it every so often. And so we haven't recorded one in a while, but it was just fun to just start telling stories, and I think people can kind of relate, and they've had a lot of similar things happen. Or if we think about some of the things that have happened in the world of education, and we can kind of just laugh about it a little bit sometimes. And our students do funny things, and sometimes we just want to keep reliving that moment because it brings us some kind of happiness or joy or whatever. And so that podcast just kind of got started as us, 3 of us, all from Rockcastle County, just kind of connecting and telling stories. And Matt and Lewis both teach together at Rockcastle County High School, and they're doing a fantastic job down there. And so just having that chance to sit down with them and relive moments, I guess, is kind of how we got going with it. We need to get back doing a few more episodes, but
well, it's always entertaining. I hope you do. Yeah. I hope our folks listen too. They need another Ag Ed podcast. Yeah. So tell us, we ask our guests the same 3 questions every time to kind of wrap it up. And the first is, what is the best piece of leadership advice you've ever received?
I think that the best leadership advice that I've ever gotten is live a life of service and serve others. And that will draw people to you, whether you want that or not. That really helps you also grow as a person and feel good about what you're doing each and every day. But have a service mindset, and it's not always about being right. It's not always about your idea being the one that we go with. But it's how can we make things better and be a servant to others. That doesn't mean going and getting them a coffee every few moments or anything like that, but providing some kind of servant mindset, servant leadership to others to help them be successful. And by doing that, you also become successful, and it brings more people in to help you and the rest of the group. And so it's not always about being in front, but it's about getting the work done and helping others also be successful so that you can be successful yourself.
Yeah.
I hope our listeners take that to heart. That's good advice. Well, the Kentucky FFA Foundation is a philanthropic organization. We are all about giving back to Kentucky FFA members, and we always ask our guests and give our guests the opportunity to just shout out someone that's really given back to them with their time or talent or treasure, whatever it may be. Who would you like to shout out who's poured into you?
Well, I would say Mr. Hayes and Mr. Reynolds. Of course, that's both of my ag teachers. Have really put a lot into me. But I would also say that even my coworkers have really helped me. It's you work with these people each and every day, and and they help you be a better teacher, a better person, a better leader. And so you need those people behind you in order to do a good job. And there's no way I could do this at Locust Trace by myself, and so having that support group and having that core group of people that can really take you to where you want to go, I think is really important. And so, whether they see it or not, by them giving their time and their efforts, those things are important. And so it doesn't always have to be money, that we're giving. It can be just as simple as just giving some time to others.
That's great. We do grow all the time from coworkers and ag teachers. They are life changing. They really are. You just talked about Mr. Hayes. He's changed so many lives and grown the profession, and you're doing the same now. So it's really incredible. Our last question, and this can be silly, serious, whatever you think, but we ask everyone, what is something right now that you're loving that's helping you grow?
Really, I know this probably sounds kind of crazy, but I picked up coaching baseball, and so I don't know how I find the time to do these things. You just make the time, but I've really enjoyed doing that. I've actually been helping coach my nephew's baseball team, and they needed a coach for their summer league, so I wound up and picked that up this year. But that's helped me just kind of step back and see that those things are also important, and so that's helped me kind of have a different look on what I do each and every day. So I've really enjoyed that, and at times I'm thinking, oh, I'll be glad when the season's over. But then there's also times that I just really love it, and I think it's kind of helped change me over the last couple of years. It's important to also focus not just on what we do at the school, even though those things are important, but it's also important to focus on family and your home and that kind of thing. And so if you can give back to your community and your family, I think that's something we should all try to do.
Oh, Daniel, that's great. That is great. What age group are you coaching?
So they are, 12 to 16 right now. I've also helped as he was younger the last couple of years. I've kind of helped with a team since he was, I guess, 7 or 8, somewhere like that. But and he's now 12. But that's probably the thing that I've kind of found is something different that's allowed me to enjoy that, and see a different aspect of life, and work with a different age group of kids. I see all these high schoolers all the time, and sometimes it's fun just to see the passion that kids have at a 7, 8-year-old kid has, that sometimes we don't see at the high school level.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate it. Makes you also appreciate middle school teachers.
Yeah, it does for sure. My husband and I coached T-ball for 5 years, for 5 years in a row, because our kids, we were T-ball coaches. And it was really fun. I started out just being the dugout mom, but then just became snacks and helping everybody find their glove and all the things that you need. And our communities need volunteers to do that in all places. And so it's great. You are a servant leader, and that's clear. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important that I even say this at school quite often, that our kids need to see us as more than just the teacher in the classroom. If they can see us, with serving our community, and they need to see good role models, and they need to see, maybe they don't have that influence at home, and they need to see us in those lights as well. It makes us more real.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it fills our cup up too. It really does.
That's right.
Yeah. Daniel, thank you for being with us on a guest today. We are looking forward to you being on the board, and just thank you for your service to the profession of ag ed and KAAE and all the things.
I've been glad to do it and glad to be a part of this.
Yeah. Well, you all, that's it for today. Join us next time on Growing Kentucky's Leaders. Growing Kentucky's Leaders is a podcast brought to you by the Kentucky FFA Foundation. Our music is performed by Bourbon County FFA member Joe Fritch. Artwork is by Julie Fritch Creative. Your hosts are Sheldon McKinney and Ruth Ann Fink, and you can find us on all social platforms at Kentucky FFA.